we have the opportunity to go deeper into victim mode, how terrible it all is, and for many it is, or we can say this is a great opportunity. We got a chance of sorting this out for the first time in known human history. This is absolutely in our face. We can sort this out now because we have the numbers. And so it's a time of fantastic opportunity, but it's going to take backbone and it's going to take round ones to grasp that opportunity. But I would say this, what is planned is worse than any consequence that people can contemplate for standing up now. The consequences of not standing up and saying we're not having it are far, far worse as this goes on than any consequence for standing up now. What is freedom of speech? It is the freedom to speak. Freedom of speech is deleted when you cease to use the freedom to speak. So keep speaking your truth. And if people don't like it, they can do the other thing. And I'll tell you from experience that if your truth has any validity, then those who mock and ridicule will eventually stop you in the street and ask you what the hell's going on.
Hey, Inspire Tribe, my fellow freedom lovers. John Nolan here. Thank you so much for tuning in. It is Thursday, October 17th, 2024. Inspired mantra stands. We're healthy, we're wealthy, we're whole, we're free. Thank you for joining us on X, Rumble, and YouTube in the live chat. I see Sean, Claudio. I see Sharon is here. Yamina, Ronnie, our wonderful moderator. Thank you so much for joining us. Ivan, White Eagle, of course, Christine as Inspired, the Wise Thumbs in a live chat, Jay Fraj, aka Jim, Legion of Salt, Emma, and who else do we have here? So Erica, so good to see you all. My friends, it's a sad day, not gonna lie, but it's not a sad day because of the news. Got the news yesterday. It's a sad day because I realized that upon receiving the news about David Icke's upcoming ban extension, we're going to talk about it, of course, in depth. I wasn't surprised. I wasn't shocked. And that is a reaction that is dangerous. So I realized there is a certain level of jadedness that I've been having around these things that I actually shouldn't have. It tells me something about where we are in the game, where we are in this battle. And it's insane. So the story is, and you might know this, most of you might know this or not, our friends from the mainstream media sure won't tell you. Unfortunately, our friends from the mainstream alternative media also won't tell you, although they should be screaming this from the rooftops, right? David Icke was banned in 2022 from entering the Netherlands, which is part of the EU and part of the Schengen area, which is almost all EU countries. It's an agreement that they have that within those countries, they can suspend border controls. That's called the Schengen area, and people can travel freely unless they're David Icke. Then they can't enter. Why was he banned from entering the Netherlands? Was it because he was accused of a crime? No. Was he charged with a crime? No. Was he convicted of a crime? No. None of the above. Nothing. No report, no criminal record, no nothing. He was accused of inciting potentially violence and hatred and riots. This never happened at a David Icke rally, after a David Icke rally, after an event, or anywhere he spoke, this has ever happened. But it was during a time when he was invited to a peace rally. And it was during a time when those rallies really gained momentum and where a lot of people were paying attention because of the insanity of the COVID years. So David Icke took to X yesterday and wrote about it. The Dutch government plans to extend a ban on David Icke from nearly 30 European countries for another 2 years because he has not changed his views. Now you got to I want to sit on this, okay? We're not going to just read over this. David Icke. So they plan on banning him for another 2 years because he has not changed his views. Do you know what that is? That is basically re-education. That is your basic re-education camp. Oh, you little child. You have not listened to the authorities. You have not listened to us fascists, dictators, psychopaths, and you still haven't changed your views. You're still thinking wrongly, so we're going to ban you. I'm speechless for not changing his views. Well, knowing David, you know when he's going to change his views? Never. You know what he thinks of this statement? Stick it up your ass. That's what he thinks of this statement. David points out that the mainstream and alternative media have largely ignored the ban, and yes, they have. We have reported on it extensively, but we're some of the, one of the few channels that actually has, or podcasts, including organizations like the Free Speech Union. The ban implies that he must change his views, including those on conspiracy theories and COVID, before the ban is lifted, potentially making it indefinite. So that means David is never going to back down or change his views. He is, de facto banned from Australia. There's almost certainly can't enter Canada or the United States. He can't enter the EU, so that doesn't leave a whole lot. I believe China is probably out of the question, North Korea, and probably other Asian countries. Africa might be a little bit different. But for the most part, he is imprisoned in the UK. That's the truth. That is the truth. For what? Simply for speaking up. We're going to go through in a little bit here all the things that he predicted accurately starting in the 90s. But then we're going to go into what they're really afraid of, because it's not the predictions that he made. There's something else. The ban affects all Schengen countries, and as many others follow Schengen criteria, he's barred from numerous additional nations. The original ban stemmed from his planned speech at a peace rally in the Netherlands following objections by the Center for Information and Documentation Israel. Well, that is a huge surprise. Whenever things like that happen, you know where it comes from, which David Icke likens to other anti-defamation organizations. David named figures like Geert Wilders, Prime Minister Dick Schoof, and former Justice Minister Dylan Jessilguts, who he claims played central roles in enforcing the ban and falsely labeling him as a Jew hater. What a ridiculous statement. If you've ever listened to David Icke for more than 10 minutes, to think that he actually classifies people into groups according to their religion, he definitely criticizes all equally for the same programs, as do we, by the way. And here's something that he said at one point. He said, people might not like me making these points, but I ask them this: what is a true love for humanity? Is it saying what you believe people need to know and taking the flak? Or is it saying what you think they want to know and taking the plaudits? We're at an incredibly pivotal moment. And the only thing that could possibly worry me when I think about the human family, not the whole picture. In the whole picture, nothing really worries me. We're infinite beings. But when I think about what is about to transpire, is the still unwillingness to look at the truths right in front of so many people. There's various reactions. The mainstream society simply blinders on, like let's watch the game, let's go to the bar Friday night. That's it. The complete blinders. There's nothing there. But there is now a significant section of society that is not mainstream. It's not thousands anymore. It's not here and there. We're in the millions. And even among those, people are subscribing to spiritual bypassing or other forms of bypassing. We're facing a fully organized tyranny that has taken officially the reins in almost every country. It's tyranny. There's no other way around it. Tyranny comes in many forms, and the best kind of prison is the one that you believe to be freedom. They realize that. They realize that whips and guns and sort of the Gestapo on the street, that is really just for, as a very last option. People rebel against that quickly. It's what is happening right now. It's the erosion of rights. It's the erosion of lifestyle. It's the erosion of opportunity. It's the erosion of everything that happens in a invisible way. There's no one out there whipping you, but they are whipping you in other ways every single day. And it frightens me in some ways that a lot of people don't want to see it. And that's probably the most frustrating thing out of all the things. It's the not wanting, the ignorance. Let's look a little bit at David Icke predictions over the years, because whether you like his persona or not, that doesn't really matter. I happen to think he's one of the true spirits here on earth today. And I happen to think that it is a true gift that he has given over the last 35 years. And I also happen to think that we should stand up with and for David, because he stood against the wind when there were very few people there listening. And he's been saying things when it was not just unpopular, but considered extreme and insane. But he's still done it. So many people don't even realize how many things they know today or have discovered today because the guy's written a book on it 25 years ago. You might have never read the book, but the book had ripple effects. It affected entire generations of researchers. It helped people find the greater picture. It influenced people. You got to look at it that way, the greater cultural impact. So I think it's time to stand up with and for David. Here are the things that the guy has predicted. Just look at this. It seems like a no-brainer today, but when he said it 25, 30 years ago, it sounded crazy. Global surveillance state. Icke predicted that governments and corporations would create a vast surveillance network to track every movement, communication, and transaction. Today, through CCTV, social media tracking, data mining, and government surveillance programs, this prediction is evident. Your TV listens to you. Your smartphone listens to you. Your computer listens to you. Freaking satellites listen to you and can analyze the serial number on whatever product you hold in your hands. The chipping of humanity. Icke spoke about plans to microchip the population as a form of control. Now, with advances in implantable technology, biometric data, and digital ID systems, the groundwork for mass microchipping is being laid. And this is putting it mildly. The truth is, and we have talked about this, this is just a language that was used at the time. The nanotechnology is here. It's coming through smart dust. It's coming through everything, the food, the water, everywhere. And it's assembling itself within all biological systems. So, that's not even something, to argue about. COVID-19 lockdown tyranny. Icke foresaw the use of pandemics as a tool to implement draconian control. The COVID-19 pandemic brought about unprecedented lockdowns, mandates, and restrictions on movement, which Icke claimed would be used to erode personal freedoms. And were they or were they not? I can't believe, I really can't believe that people have lived through the years of 2020, 21, 22, 23, the died suddenly movement, all the information that is out there. And today they're still trying to convince me that in a few weeks on November 5th, there are two choices and one solution. That's it. That's all there's ever going to be. When all the problems are stemming from people going for two choices and one solution. The two choices being two candidates, or sometimes there's 3 or 4 in different countries, and the solution is voting. Well, that's what's gotten us here, just saying. Cashless society. The move towards a cashless society was predicted by Icke, warning that digital money would be used to control every transaction. Today, countries and central banks are actively pushing central bank digital currencies, making cash obsolete. In some nations, Norway, I know, is basically cashless. Sweden, basically cashless. Scandinavia was, ahead of the curve. China, basically cashless. And other nations following suit, and we're headed there. Trump just calls it, he says crypto. Well, there will never be a central bank digital currency. Well, there will be a digital currency. It will be the currency of the land, and it will basically have the same functions as the proposed central bank digital currency. They'll just call it freedom currency. That's what they'll do. They'll stick an American flag on it, call it freedom currency. It will have the same function. One world government. Ike warned of the push toward a global government where decision-making would be centralized. Today, we see organizations like the United Nations, the World Economic Forum, and globalist policies steering towards a unified global system. Medical tyranny. The prediction that health would be weaponized as a control mechanism has become increasingly with the implementation of vax passports, mandates, and state control over medical decisions in the name of public safety. What is currently happening in the EU, friends? The test phase was rolled out last month or 2 months ago for the digital health passport. This is now being the field test, if you will, and this is becoming either 25 or in 26. It's becoming mandatory. You will apply for a job. You need your digital health passport. You want to enroll your kid in school, digital health passport. You want to travel, digital health passport. You want to get government services, digital health passport. You don't have all of the prescribed medical procedures. I'm sorry. No banking, no school, no job, no services, no nothing. It's the law according to them. Digital ID and biometric control. David Icke spoke of a future where digital identities and biometric systems would track and control the population. Today, biometric surveillance, facial recognition, fingerprints, you go into an airport, it's like a cattle operation, is being integrated into security and ID systems worldwide, everywhere. In your passport, in your driver's license, everywhere. Transhumanism. He warned about the transhumanist agenda where humanity would be merged with machines. Today, we see growing interest in neural implants, cybernetic enhancements, and biotechnology aiming to merge humans with AI, which is exactly what is happening. Manipulation through fear. Icke predicted that fear would be the primary tool to control the masses. Whether through the war on terror, climate change, or the pandemic, fear has consistently been used to push authoritarian measures. Elites using crises to centralize power. He warned that crises would be engineered or exaggerated to centralize power in the hands of the elite. From financial crashes to health emergencies, power consolidation has been evident in recent global events, as have been land grabs, as have been depop agendas, and so forth. Suppression of free speech. Well, he's a prime example of that, right? David foresaw the suppression of dissenting voices. Today, censorship and alternative viewpoints on social media, deplatforming, and cancel culture have become the norm, especially regarding political or health-related discourse. I want to stop here for a moment because all of this has become so normalized. And I will once again tell you the shock moment of 2020. I've shared this before, but I think it's worth repeating. David Icke was invited on Brian Rose's London Real platform. And they had a conversation, a live stream scheduled. At the beginning of the live stream, the numbers kept shooting up and it went to over 1 million viewers. That was, at that point, I believe, the biggest YouTube live stream in history. And David Icke, being David Icke, simply laid out how he viewed the events of the year, what has unfolded, what the media has said, what the government has said, and what he believed about it to be true. The live stream was cut. It was literally cut. Banned from people seeing it. People banned from seeing it. David Icke deplatformed. That was a shock moment. I remember it. We were sitting there and I was like, what the hell just happened? They didn't. Did they really just cut it off? Now, that was only 4 years ago, my friends, and we're so used to it now. We don't even talk about another channel being deplatformed. We don't even talk about another voice being censored. We don't even talk about that anymore because it has become the norm. Oh, we've spoken out against this, or we have shared the truth about this. Oh, you're going to get silenced. That's just how it is. And we just go about it as if that's normal, as if that's natural, as if that's how it should be. And I'm including myself in this because it's desensitization. We've been desensitized to these insane developments. It's not just that. Major corporations who decided to not go along with DEI, not go along with the woke nonsense, who maybe didn't put up the right freaking fascist flags or whatever, or didn't have tampons in their bathrooms, whatever, are getting debanked. Debanked. Where their bank is calling them and saying, you got 14 days to find new arrangements. We're canceling all your accounts. That's where we are. Where even government services have been refused, or at least made very difficult for them to get those, because they don't agree with their views. It's insanity. Big tech and AI dominance. David Icke warned of big tech corporations becoming the controlling forces behind the global system. Today, Google, Facebook, Amazon, and others play an enormous role in shaping global policy and controlling information through AI algorithms. Rise of technocracy, right? We talked about that. The global digital currency, not just in your nation, but a global controlled digital currency. The cult of climate change. He warned that climate change would be used as a reason to impose sweeping global controls on energy, travel, and consumption. Policies like carbon credits, restrictions on travel, and energy rationing are starting to emerge in the name of saving the planet. These were all predictions David Icke made. And the way that it was throughout the first maybe couple decades of his career was, he'd been a successful football player, soccer, if you're in the United States. And then, he became a TV presenter for the BBC. Yeah, he was, he saw the system from the inside, and he was a spokesperson for the Green Party. So he had lots of inside views into these sectors. And so when he had his Great Awakening experiences and started talking about it, he was featured on mainstream media, albeit in not a very flattering way. Of course, he was ridiculed incredibly, but the media kept inviting him. He would go on radio shows and internationally, always with the aim of ridiculing him and his views. And of course, they always pulled out the lizard people, the reptilian people thing, although that's not ridiculous at all, considering that information is in many cultures all around the world. You can see it, you can find it, you can find statues, you can find everything that points to the Draco reptilian presence and whatnot. Be that as it may, it wasn't, when he was saying all those things, yes, he was a threat because it was before it was obvious to people. When he made all these predictions weren't yet obvious to people. This was still in the phase where the cult didn't want really people to know. That has changed. It has become so obvious that you can't hide it. So now, to use his own words, when you can't hide it, you have to sell it. It isn't that made him so dangerous. They really started banning him, censoring him, and shutting him down in terms of no more coverage, no more mentioning of David Icke in mainstream media, or very little, when he started talking about the nature of our reality in bigger ways, which is where we are now. This is where the real community of truth seekers, sort of, that's the cutting edge of the discussion, is what is it? Are we in a freaking computer game? Are we in a dream of some entity? Are we in a simulated, curated reality? Is this a construct? Is the old notion of the Eastern traditions that the Maya, the world of illusion, it's an illusion, is real? maybe their interpretation or how they packaged it isn't quite right, but the notion that we're living sort of in an illusory world. Now that when that goes mainstream, and I think it's really the part of discovering how it works, what its purpose is, how consciousness is trapped here, and how it is supposed to become indefinitely trapped when these avatars are not necessary any longer and the consciousness is simply uploaded into the hive mind. I think this part of the discussion and the afterlife being sort of discussed in a less mystical and religious way, and but more like, okay, let's explore this just like we would explore anything else. Let's expand our awareness and look at what that is. I think this is the dangerous topic of our time, and I fully predict, and I'll go on a record here, that within a short period of time the censorship will extend to this subject. It won't be as bad anymore to talk about all the medical stuff that we were banned from talking about. This will be the subject that will get everybody censored. What is the nature of our and why is that a problematic subject? Because I believe that's the way out. That's the exit. That's the end to their system. If we discover this in a proper way on a greater scale. And I think that's what makes David Icke currently so dangerous, because he's been writing extensively about it in his last 3 books, The Trap, The Dream, The Reveal, which I would encourage you all to read. And that's what he's talking about mainly on interviews watched by millions of people all over the world. This is having an impact. This is literally changing the field, and it's beginning to change people's perceptions. Most importantly, they're exploring on their own. They're doing their own exploration journey. And like yesterday's show, if you weren't here yesterday, I would encourage you to look up yesterday's show, The Hidden Reality That They Don't Want You to Find, is basically part of that discussion. Thank you, Freedom. Thank you so much. The and last night, Christine and I had a discussion of, in yesterday's show, we talked about how we think this is what we are, and our senses is what we are. And so how we discover the world around us is through our senses and logic and analytics. And that is part of the truth, but it's not the entire truth. Really, the biggest part of us, the most aware part of us, is hidden from us unless we actively seek it out, which is expanded consciousness, who we really are. And that would allow us to see reality for what it really is. And I found, or maybe I found an explanation or a visual of how I perceive this problem. So imagine that you are born on an island, and everybody on that island is born without legs and hands. All right. So basically, you have your torso or your head, but you have no legs and no hands. And there are people, very, very rare, but there are people who are born like this, by the way. But imagine you're born on an island where that's all you see, people with no legs and no hands. Now that's all you know. So that is what a human being is. It doesn't look like a problem because everybody is like that, and everybody has a range. Everybody knows they do things with their mouth and whatever. So when that is what you see, when somebody on that island tells you about, hey, have you ever heard about these beings? They're in other places and they got these things that they extend from their torso down, and they, instead of hopping around, they can actually, it's called walking. They can even run, and they can do these things. And then even crazier, they have these things sticking out here, and they have these little things they call fingers, and they can grab stuff, and they can write, and they can do all these things. If you live on that island, you grow up on an island, you go, this is a crazy person. What are they talking about? There's no such thing as arms and legs. This is who we are. This is all there is. And I sort of think of expanded consciousness and our ability to travel outside of the body, this avatar, and see reality from a much grander standpoint. To most people, it's like that. It's a crazy conspiracy theory. But if this is being implemented on a larger scale by more and more people, not in a mystical, not in a white robe and 16 candles kind of way, but in a more like you would explore anything else. you learn a new technique, you learn a special breathing technique that allows you to do that. And then you go and you explore infinity, multiple dimensions, omnidimensional travel, all of that. When that begins to happen on a scale beyond a few thousand people on Earth or a few 100,000, but millions, why would anyone want to participate in a tyrannical authoritarian system and give their power away to fellow humans who know better? It wouldn't work any longer. And I think that is the current huge danger of David Icke in the eyes of these psychopaths. They're afraid of him, but not because he talks about chips and IDs and health passports. They got that rolling. They're not worried about that. They're worried about people awakening to who they really are, finding their true power, finding the real I that would never in a million years ever acquiesce to this bullshit, ever. That just doesn't happen when you embody that. And he's one of the leading voices in our world today talking about these things with real knowledge, right? I mean, a real exploration of this subject. He hasn't just dabbled a little bit into it. He's really gone very, very deep. And a lot of it is connecting the dots beautifully. And so that is the danger currently. I'm sorry to say it, but the, I don't see the Joe Rogans and the Jordan Petersons and the Daily Wire people being any significant danger to anyone. They're just playing the outer edges of the game, and they're profiting from the game on the outer edges of the game. They're not walking off the field. They're not willing to call out the entire field for what it is. It's a racket. This entire thing's a racket. It's not real. It's a game. It's a field. What they're saying is, I don't like the ref. You know, the ref's been kind of corrupt, and we should vote in a better ref. Or, the coach is getting kind of demented. We need another coach. They're just arguing about how to rearrange the game and the players, but they're not calling out the game, not in any significant way. And that's why people ultimately, when they follow these voices, unbelievably land at the same solutions that the tyrannical system is presenting to them. Because what are they presenting to them? They're saying 5th of November, that's your opportunity. Well, that's what the system is saying. That's what the psychopaths are saying. And that's what the alternative media is saying to a large degree. Go 5th of November, there's your solution. I don't believe that. I believe the solution is an inside job. Always has been. So does David Icke and a few others, really a few other great people out there that are doing incredible work, that are authentic and that are a true, they're a real benefit to all of us right now. And we need more. We need everyone, all hands on deck, because we can shift consciousness. We can. We truly have that opportunity, but we must grab it by the balls, so to speak. That was a figure of speech, by the way. It wasn't literal. And we got to use this opportunity. Everything has an energy window. And this energy window currently is, I see it closing actually, not opening. We've had this energy window for the past 4 years, what I call energy windows. It's when human consciousness and intention and what is unfolding in our reality creates sort of this perfect mix that opens the window, the energetic window of opportunities. Thank you so much again for your contribution. It opens this perfect window, energetic window. The more that you use that window, the bigger and stronger it gets. And over time, if the window is unused or people are fearful or they don't want to fully go there, the window keeps closing until it closes shut. And then it takes a while to open up another window. It doesn't mean you can't make changes happen, but it's much harder. It's like that in your personal life, and you can feel it too. At some, there are some periods in your life, weeks, months, where everything just comes easier. It's just like you're on a roll. That's an energetic window. And when you're on that roll, boom, you use it. You got to use it. And this is where we are. This window, unless we start really using it, is closing. And by using it, I mean standing in our true power and connecting to who we really are. I mean, that is the solution. You really don't need money for that or travel to some exotic places. It really is an inside job. I mean, I've said it a million times, but the libraries of the world, the movie and documentary platforms of the world, the video platforms of the world, they all pale in comparison, combined. They pale in comparison to what you can when you go within and open that up. Thank you. Thank you, Debbie. Really appreciate it. When you do that, there is no knowledge that you can find in this world as extensive and beautiful than the one that you can find when you go within. It's incredible. And those are basically David Icke's words and what they're so afraid of. Because it turns you from little me, no power, into infinite me. In truth, all the power. All right, my friends. Thank you for tuning in. I also wanted to let you know, if you're somewhere around the Forgotten Coast, over the next few days, starting tomorrow night and then Saturday and Sunday, I'll be playing, I'll be doing what I actually do. I'm a, songwriter and artist. I'll be out here in Port St. Joe, Florida, playing some music for you all. There's about 30 songwriters here from Nashville. You will hear, if you're into country music. If you're not, I'm sorry to hear that. But if you love country music, you'll hear some of the biggest hits ever written by the people who wrote them. Singers usually don't write their own songs. It's professional songwriters. That used to be that way. So that's in Port St. Joe, Florida, and the festival is called Blast on the Bay. Last but not least, I would like to invite you to help yourself with a boost in energy and a boost in consciousness by activating your complementary field, high consciousness field. Our friends at FLFE are offering a 15-day free trial, no credit cards, no subscriptions, no bullshit, just a gift. And what they do is, with their quantum technology, non-invasive, no AI, no nothing, it creates, through quantum entanglement, a high consciousness field. So basically, you would turn your home into something like a sacred site, if you will. It almost has similar powers. Like, you go to sacred sites to pray and to meditate, your home can become such a sacred site or similar to that with an FLFE field, and it helps people in their meditative practices. It helps people in their financial life. It helps people in their in their personal relationships, health-wise. I mean, it has incredible benefits that were studied for the last 10 plus years scientifically. It helps pets, plant growth. I mean, you name it. I'm just inviting you, if you go click the link in the description or go to highconsciousnessfield.com, just start your free trial and just experience it, and see how it works for you. All right, my friends. Love you all so much. Appreciate you. And we'll be back with you again very, very soon. Right now, you could be only a few clicks away from experiencing something amazing, something that has changed thousands of lives all over the world. I'm talking about a high consciousness field similar to those at pilgrimage sites and sacred places. It's where people go to heal, to connect, and to become the best possible version of themselves. With FLFE, you can bring such a high consciousness field into your home right now. It's a spiritual quantum technology based on the work of Nikola Tesla. Better sleep, more energy, greater well-being, improved finances, electrosmog mitigation. These are only some of the things people on the FLFE service are experiencing. Try it now for 15 days completely free of charge, no credit card needed. Just click on a link down below to start your free, no strings attached FLFE trial right now.